"It's time to go up," said Callie loudly, cutting across the chatter. "Great!" Ariana heard a few voices say, but it wasn't the voices of Sphinx Academy students that she heard. "Let's eat," said Chester excitedly. The Dynasty team members watched sadly as Luigi and his colleagues filed toward the stairs. They were going up to the second floor where they could be served the special meal prepared by Master Muncie. Miss Weiss had asked the master to return her favor, and he had agreed. Axel turned away. He was too disappointed to watch. "You'll pay for this," he snarled as Luigi walked past. Luigi laughed. "We're going to pay? How?" he asked loudly. "You don't need to show us the way. I know where it is," said Miss Weiss with a smile as Callie tried to point her in the right direction. But the smile had been cold, and it was too much for Callie. Instead of using her arm to point, she raised it further, blocking the vice principal's way. "What?" said Miss Weiss, her smile vanishing. "I'm sorry, but you can't go in." It was Callie's turn to smile smugly. "Then who can?" asked Miss Weiss, genuinely confused. Callie pointed to Ariana and her teammates. "Them," she said. The entire room fell silent. "Us?" said Axel. "Are you sure?" Callie nodded. "Yes, that's what I've been told," she said loudly. She wanted to be sure everyone heard her. Miss Weiss finally realized what was happening and stared at Callie. "No, that's not possible," she said. Callie shrugged. "Yes, it is," she said, her smile widening. "You're lying," shouted Vice Principal Weiss, embarrassment washing over her. "This can't be happening." Callie frowned. Normally, she was very easygoing, but she had a temper as well. As the owner of the Star Cloud Tower, she had to frequently stand her ground. It was time for that temper to put on an appearance. "You don't get to talk to me in that tone," she said sharply. "You're not welcome here. Get out." Callie knew what Miss Weiss had done and found her behavior despicable. Throwing her out would be a pleasure. Miss Weiss stared at her in disbelief. "How dare the owner of a restaurant shout at me?" she shouted, her face puced. "Do you know who I am? I'm the vice principal of the military academy." "I don't care what your job title is in the military academy," retorted Callie. "It means nothing here in Sphinx Academy. If you want to lecture me, you'll need to become the deputy chief of the Sphinx Academy first." Miss Weiss was so angry she started to shake. Ariana clapped her hands slowly. She liked Callie because she spoke her mind. Miss Weiss turned to Mr. Yates. "You cheated!" she shouted. "And you didn't even try to hide it. Is that what you teach your students? And if you let Ariana get away with this disrespectful behavior, I'll discipline her myself." But the sound of approaching footsteps prevented Mr. Yates from answering. It was little Albert, and he wasn't happy. The two teachers stopped arguing abruptly, too respectful of little Albert to annoy him. As the representative of Master Lachlan in the secular world, he had the ear of the man revered by so many. The students were surprised by the teacher's responses to the monk. They had no idea who little Albert was, or why the teachers were being so deferential toward him. "Don't stare at him," said Mr. Yates to the students in a loud whisper. "Show him some respect." Axel looked at him in surprise. It was rare to see him look so stern. But seeing his response, the whole team decided that it was best if they did as they were told. Even Luigi and his team complied. Little Albert walked up to them, but his words were directed to Miss Weiss. "How dare you raise your voice here?" he shouted. His tone was very domineering. Of all the people in the room, Ariana was the most surprised. She only remembered little Albert as a lovely, shy boy who had always enjoyed good food. She almost didn't recognize him. But her surprise was nothing compared to her shock when she saw Miss Weiss's response. The woman stood meekly and let the little monk speak to her that way. It amazed Ariana to see the lengths people would go to curry favor with Lachlan. Little Albert stared at Miss Weiss. "I've decided to give the meal to my friend Ariana. Do you have a problem with that?" The look on the vice principal's face showed that she had a big problem with his words, but there was nothing she could do about it. She forced a smile. "No, of course not," she said. "I'm glad to hear it," he said, throwing her a dirty look before he turned to Ariana and smiled. He walked over to her, his eyes filled with admiration. Once he was near enough, he took her hand. "Ariana, my master needs me, so I must go," he said gently. "I've saved a table for you and your team. No other team can have it." "That's great. Thank you, my dear little Albert," she replied, her tone of voice letting everyone know that she had met the boy before. "You're welcome," he replied, his eyes sparkling. Unlike his harsh tone when he had spoken to Miss Weiss, he was thoroughly charming when he spoke to Ariana. He gave her one last smile before he reluctantly took his leave. Once he was gone, the others looked at one another in wonder. Desperate to ask Ariana how she knew little Albert, Axel decided not to quiz her until later. He could see Luigi was just as intrigued, but he didn't want to give him the satisfaction of finding out as well. "Ariana, let's go up," he said loudly. "There's a banquet waiting for us, and it would be a shame to let it go cold. Miss Weiss's favor wasn't as big as she thought it was." Luigi turned away, keen not to show his disappointment, but his embarrassment was nothing compared to that of Miss Weiss. She glared at Ariana, furious that such a young girl could have usurped her. For the first time in her life, she thought she hated someone. But it was more than hatred. She feared the girl, and she was intrigued by her too. What is Ariana's relationship with little Albert? She thought, genuinely intrigued. She figured she could cope with them being just good friends. However, if Lachlan was involved, things would be very complicated, she decided. Ariana and her team smiled at Miss Weiss as they walked past her, much to her astonishment. It was almost as if they were provoking her. And it wasn't just them. All the other Sphinx Academy students seemed to be doing the same. They pointed at the military team and laughed among themselves as if the military college students were just a joke. Miss Weiss and Luigi Laredo had the sense not to react to their behavior, but the rest of the team wasn't as self-controlled as they were. They began to rise to the bait. But when it came to the adults, Miss Weiss lost her self-control too. "Do you think you've won?" she said haughtily to Mr. Yates. "Do I have to remind you that we're in the middle of a competition? This meal means nothing. There's plenty more time left. I was going to make it easy for you, but now you'll be sorry for what you've done." With that, she walked away. "Let's go," she said to her team over her shoulder as she walked. The Sphinx Academy had won both the junior team competition and the meal. On both occasions, it had been all because of Ariana. She had become the idol of her teammates. Everybody loved her. As befitted the leaders of the competition, the banquet they had earned was delicious. But as soon as they had eaten, Ariana told them to go straight to the arena. "We still have 2 hours before the final round," said Turin. "Why don't we go back to our area and take a break?" "No," said Ariana. She sounded adamant. "To the arena. Now." Although no one knew why they weren't going to argue with their strongest member, the whole team went to the arena without so much as a word of dissent. The indoor arena could fit 10,000 spectators. The competition was due to start in 2 hours, but already people had started to take their seats. Ariana surveyed the seating area. She knew that a sizable proportion of seats would be occupied by fans and students of the military college. The students would be segregated: Sphinx Academy supporters to the left and military college supporters to the right. There would be no mixing. But to see the seating area was not why she had dragged her team away from such a sumptuous meal. Just then, Andy Wang put his hands on his lower abdomen. "My energy center feels warm," he said. "So does mine," said Turin. "Why does it feel like I'm making a breakthrough?" They looked at each other incredulously. It wasn't just one student. At least 6 people were clutching their stomachs and feeling the same. Ariana grinned. "If you feel the need to make a breakthrough, go ahead," she said. "I'll guard you." "Is this the effect of Master Muncie's food?" asked Andy suspiciously. They all ate at Callie's regularly, about once a month if they could. Although they regularly praised the food, never before had it affected them on that scale. It was amazing. Axel gave her a knowing look. He had noticed her going into the kitchen earlier. "This has to be the reason why she went in there," he said to himself. "And if she denies it, I won't believe her." But Ariana had noticed his look. She turned away, concealing a smile. The whole team sat down and started to cultivate. The few spectators who had already arrived watched in amazement. They were the best students of Sphinx Academy, and they only had a little time left before the competition. Yet there they were, trying to cultivate. How strange. Marissa McDonald, who was sitting in the audience, had watched the whole thing. Sean Fitzgerald glanced at her. "What?" he asked, oblivious to what was happening. "Did you notice that?" she said angrily. "Andy Wang made a breakthrough just then. I felt it." "Now that you come to mention it, I feel it too," said Sean, upset that he hadn't noticed earlier. "He's a half level higher than he was before." "Look at Ashley Schneider," she said, so excited that it came out as a shout. "Wasn't he severely injured before? He looks perfectly all right now." "You're right. He's advanced as well," said Sean. "They're not the only ones," she said. "Ethan Fuentes is doing it too." "Why are they making such rapid progress?" he asked. "Rumor has it that they went to eat at Master Muncie's monthly feast," she replied knowledgeably. "So that food is as amazing as they say," he said. He would have given anything to eat there himself. They weren't the only ones who had noticed what was happening. Leonard Lipsky was ecstatic when he realized what was going on. "We'll go there every month from now on," he vowed. "I'm sure we'll get lucky one day." Many people thought the same way. It seemed Master Muncie would have a lot more customers for a long time. There was no way that such big news would be kept a secret. Although they were in a dressing room nearby, the military academy soon caught wind of what was happening. They had chosen to be kept in seclusion to keep their minds calm, but it wasn't long before someone broke the news to them. Roman Hahn was the one to tell them the news. He ran into the military academy dressing room looking for Miss Weiss. He had been her student in the past, and he knew her well. She smiled when she saw him. "Do you want to talk to me?" she asked gently. She had fond memories of the boy. "I suggest you go to the arena, now," he said, his face serious. "Why?" she asked, genuinely perplexed. Roman had never looked so serious before. "You'll regret it if you don't go now," he said. "I've never been so serious in my life. It's up to you whether you go or not." With that, he turned to leave. "Why are you helping us?" she asked as she put her hand gently on his arm to stop him from leaving. He didn't answer. "You're a student of the Sphinx Academy. Why would you want to help us?" she asked again. "We're your opponents." Roman knew that the honor of both schools was at stake. He was also a student of the Sphinx Academy, yet there he was, prepared to do the other school a favor. He stopped, turned his head, and looked at her, his eyes so full of hatred that even Miss Weiss stepped back in fear. It seemed he hated his school to the bone. However, his look reassured Miss Weiss. It was enough for her to take action. "Let's go to the arena," she said to her team. "Something's happening." The students were all perplexed. They could see she didn't know what was going on, but if Roman Hahn had come all the way to tell her, it had to be something big. She led the way, pushing past other students as she and the team walked. "Has something happened in the arena that will stop the competition from taking place?" she wondered as she walked. Despite her recent humiliation at the hands of Callie, she didn't want that to happen. They were in a hurry to get to the Peace Grassland after all. Everybody was anxious as they arrived at the arena, not sure what to expect. Vice Principal Weiss stopped Mr. Yates and wasted no time in asking him what was happening. "Are we starting on time?" she asked him, her voice curt. But he hadn't heard. He was too busy watching Turin make a breakthrough, and he was just as surprised as everyone else at the turn of events. "I'm talking to you," she said loudly, thinking he was ignoring her on purpose. When he still didn't reply, she poked him sharply on the arm. Startled, he turned around. He hadn't even seen her approaching. "Be quiet," he said. But his words only angered her further. She was about to give him a piece of her mind when something caught her eye. It was Turin, and spiritual essence was wrapped around him as if he were in a cocoon. She had seen it before. As soon as he absorbed all the essences, he would become a spiritual king. A spiritual king. Miss Weiss panicked. The Sphinx Academy already had 2 spiritual kings. Therefore, if Turin attained the spiritual king ranking, their seeded team would be equal to the military academies. The military academy had 3 spiritual kings, which was the only reason they were sure they would win. It looked like they were about to lose that advantage. "No, I'm not going to sit by and let this happen. I've got to do something," Vice Principal Weiss thought. She quickly devised a plan to sabotage the students' breakthrough. But as she finalized the plan's details, she heard a cold, devilish voice in her head. The voice sounded like it was from hell, and it sent chills down her spine. She thought she was the only one who could hear it, but she turned around and checked everyone's expressions to ensure that was the case. Davina, remember this is Sphinx Academy, and we don't take threats lightly, the voice warned. That was a technique for sending messages to one specific person. Only spiritual kings or cultivators above that level could use it, as it required a significant amount of spiritual essence and focus to master. Miss Weiss was already aware of who had sent her the message. It was Camden Madden. She realized the elder was right about the Sphinx Academy not taking threats lightly, as she had once been a tutor at that school. She was in Sphinx Academy's territory and knew she had to restrain herself. Moreover, it seemed her plan to sabotage Turin's breakthrough had been discovered, so she no longer had the element of surprise. If we were in the military academy's territory, I could have easily executed my plan to sabotage him, she reasoned as she sighed in disappointment. Meanwhile, the military academy's students were cursing in their heads. The thought of the Sphinx Academy matching up to them made them livid. Chester muttered, "Shit! Why did Turin have to become a spiritual king? How did they even reach that level? I thought they were a bunch of weaklings," Luigi retorted. They exchanged worried looks with each other. They had thought they would win the competition, but at that moment, the tables had turned in favor of the Sphinx Academy, and Luigi wasn't so sure about their victory. Chester, however, had a glimmer of hope that they could still win. He said casually, "Even though they're spiritual kings, they haven't yet optimized their full powers and potential. Their spiritual essence is unstable, so they can't use advanced spiritual king techniques. They're still no match for us." Leighton, who was standing beside the two students, nodded in agreement and said confidently, "There's no need to worry. We're still a much better team. Our school will win." Luigi began to have hope that they could win the contest. However, he frowned when he looked at the other students on the varsity team. "Wait!" he exclaimed in disbelief after realizing that every student on the varsity team had made cultivation progress similar to Turin. Luigi had noticed their cultivation levels when they were at Star Cloud Tower, so he could see the difference. Chester was caught off guard by Luigi and asked, "What is it?" "They've all made some cultivation progress," Luigi replied, a little flustered. He could cope with the discovery if only a couple of their rivals had made progress. That wouldn't have affected the military academy's chance to win the competition in the slightest. However, it would be a big deal if they had all made improvements. "It's been less than an hour, and they've all improved by at least half a level. What's going on?" Luigi asked as he ground his teeth. "If a team can make improvements like this together, they'll be formidable opponents, which is a terrifying idea," Chester observed. Leighton asked, "Shit, do you think it's because of Master Muncie? Didn't they say eating his food might help improve a person's cultivation?" "I think that's how they made such improvements," Chester agreed. "That opportunity should have been ours," they reasoned jealously. Chester and Belisario began to mutter offensive words at the varsity team, but Luigi stopped them and ordered, "Calm down, all of you. Do you want us to be disqualified?" The whole team immediately fell silent. Luigi asked, "Do you know why they're taking the risk of cultivating on stage?" The other members of the military academy's first team looked at Luigi in unison. Leighton was the first to realize what he was alluding to and snapped, "Shit! They're doing it on purpose! Who came up with that idea? How sly!" Everybody looked at him when they understood what he was talking about. "They're deliberately cultivating here to distract us and boost their confidence. It's such a clever move," Leighton explained. The military academy's first team members were indeed some of the most powerful students in the Mystic Kingdom. Luigi, Chester, and Leighton were spiritual kings, while Arsenio and Belisario were level 9 spiritual lords. The Sphinx Academy students were cheering loudly for Turin's breakthrough, as his advancement would make them an equal match to the military academy's first team. Luigi fumed as he looked from the rival team to where his schoolmates were supposed to sit in the arena. He noticed that the seats meant for his schoolmates were empty. They had been arrogant and thought their team was going to win the competition, so they believed there was no point in attending when they already knew the outcome. A little moral support would be helpful right now, he thought, as he suddenly had a bad feeling. He couldn't pinpoint exactly what was making him feel that way. He turned to his teammates and said, "Let's analyze our opponent's skills. Axel, Ariana, and Turin are new spiritual kings. Lee is a peak level 9 spiritual lord, and Calvin and Miguel are advanced level 9 spiritual lords." Leighton glanced at the varsity team and whispered, "Miguel just became a peak level 9 spiritual lord." Luigi was shocked by that statement, as he hadn't factored that into his plan. Their opponents had just become stronger again, and it looked like they were more than a match for the military academy's first team. Is Sphinx Academy going to win this year? No, I have to stay positive. There's no way they can beat us, Luigi thought. He took a deep breath and said, "Let's see what we've got. Chester, Leighton, and I are spiritual kings. Arsenio and Belisario are peak level 9 spiritual lords, putting our team on par with the Sphinx Academies. But we've got a better chance because we've made the breakthroughs earlier than they did. Moreover, we've mastered most of the cultivation techniques already." "Captain Luigi," Leighton said nervously, "that may not be the case." "Are you saying that we're going to lose?" Luigi retorted and frowned. "I'm sure we can win if we play our cards right." Leighton continued, "We lost the junior game, remember?" Luigi's face darkened. He wanted to smack the living hell out of Leighton, but he restrained himself. "Hell!" he snapped. He had completely forgotten that fact for some reason. The reminder was a hard blow to his confidence. He gave Adriel a dirty look and wondered, how could we have lost that competition? Leighton said, "Captain, glaring at Adriel won't change anything. Since Ariana is a spiritual king, our junior team was destined to lose from the start." Arsenio was annoyed and said, "Isn't she ashamed of fighting for the junior team? She's a spiritual king." "I asked around today and discovered that Ariana only finished the paperwork to join the team today," Leighton said. He continued, "Even some of her team members questioned her qualifications to join them, so there was no way they would have put her on the varsity team without the proper authorization. We also thought she was a weakling at first." The others were speechless. Leighton glanced at Davina and said, "Vice Principal Weiss insisted that Ariana only won because Adriel let her." "That's so embarrassing," The others murmured. "Forget about Ariana," Luigi snapped. "We must win this competition. I'll have to resort to using our secret weapon if we don't have any other choice." All the military academy's first team members knew what Luigi was talking about. They all knew that technique, but never expected to use it because they had thought they would win. However, the varsity team was leaving them no other choice. Luigi smirked. "Ariana's too proud. She probably hasn't even shown all her cards yet." "She'll pay for her pride," Chester snapped vindictively. The rest of the team members smiled at the prospect of making Ariana pay for her pride. Ariana's team was still feeling excited about what was going to happen. Axel looked from Ariana to their other team members and asked casually, "Isn't that spirit wine so precious to you? Why did you put it in our food?" Ariana replied, "Did I? Do you have evidence?" Axel didn't have evidence to support his claim, but he knew he was right. He was intrigued by Ariana's response and wondered, "She's done a good thing by helping us. Why does she want it to remain a secret? Why do you want to stay anonymous?" Axel insisted. Ariana only gave him a silencing glance without responding. After all, she had her reasons. There were many tutors and students at the Sphinx Academy, and if word got out that she had helped her teammates with spirit wine, the whole school would be begging her to do the same for them in no time. Andy was the first to finish cultivating after eating the food. He ran to Ariana in excitement and exclaimed, "I've improved! I'm a level 9 spiritual lord too!" Ariana smiled and pointed toward Turin. "Holy crap!" Andy yelled as he saw that Turin had become a spiritual king. He then realized that all his teammates had made great progress, and knowing nothing about Ariana's spiritual wine, he assumed it was because of the food. He said with certainty, "Master Muncie's food is so powerful because all our teammates have made progress after eating it." "They're staring at us," Andy said as he glanced in the direction of the military academy's first team and smirked. "Luigi's glaring at me like he wants to kill me. He's such a bad loser." At that moment, every member of the varsity team had finished cultivating. They were all in high spirits, and it seemed nothing could wipe the smiles off their faces. Ariana and Axel went to discuss their strategy for the competition and left their teammates on the stage. "From now on, we're going to the Star Cloud Tower every month to see Master Muncie," Andy suggested. The others all nodded in agreement. "Do you think our progress is because of Master Muncie?" Kelvin asked curiously. "I thought it was Master Muncie too, but I overheard Captain Axel talking to Ariana just now. And from what I've gathered, she added something to the food, which is why we all made such rapid progress," Andy replied. Kelvin inquired, "What did she add?" "I think it was the legendary spirit wine," Andy answered. "Holy shit! Spirit wine!" Kelvin exclaimed. "I heard about it from my tutor. She said students made rapid progress in cultivation while our school still had plenty of wine. It was unheard of at the time to be stuck at the spiritual king level. However, the school ran out of spirit wine, so the students' progress could no longer be accelerated. Other people might think the spirit wine has run out, but Master Madden mentioned that Ariana found a bottle of it in the secret essence mine," explained Andy. "What? She was almost buried alive, and yet she still found a bottle of spirit wine?" Kelvin asked in shock. Andy responded, "Yes, Master Madden tried to ask her for some, but she refused to give him any. After that conversation, all the teammates of the varsity team knew that Ariana was the reason they had made such progress in their cultivation. "Ariana! Ariana!" they called out as they ran to her side. Ariana and Axel had just finished figuring out the sequence they were going to make their opponents fight in. The spirit wine was supposed to be a secret, so the other team members couldn't thank Ariana openly, but they still felt they should say something. The spirit wine and Master Muncie's dishes had come from Ariana. No one could deny that. They all looked at her with gratitude in their eyes without saying a word. Ariana understood what they were trying to do. She glanced at them and said sarcastically, "You're all going to jump off a cliff if you don't win this battle." "Yes, of course." Everybody nodded as they giggled a little. Turin stared at Ariana in excitement. He had made the greatest progress of all Team Varsity members. Without Ariana's help, he might never have become a spiritual king. "I won't allow anyone to disrespect you in the future," he promised solemnly. "If they do, I'll kill them and anyone who tries to save them." Ariana didn't know how to react, as that proclamation came out of nowhere. At that moment, she saw crowds of people walking into the arena. There hadn't been that many people during the junior team competition. After a few minutes, not only was the auditorium full, but the judges had also arrived. Axel knew Ariana didn't know why so many people were there, so he explained. "They're military academy students. They all sit in the arena on the left and are here to support their team. Because it's an away game for them, they take up only about 1/3 of the seats. The area on the right belongs to our school. They didn't want to watch us at first because they believed we were going to lose. But now the seats have all been occupied. I think they have some confidence in us. Look there." He pointed at the judges' table. "The 2 seats in the middle belong to the 2 people with the highest authority from the competing schools. Master Madden will represent our school, and that elderly man on his right represents the military academy. He's General Julius Novachrono, a major general in the army. His status in the military academy is like Master Madden's in our school." Those 2 weren't the only judges for the competition. Mr. Yates and Miss Weiss were also going to be judges. Naturally, given their history, they sat on opposite ends of the panel table. "We're still waiting for one more person," Axel added. Ariana got curious and asked, "Who?" "The chief judge," Axel replied as he glanced at her. "His Royal Highness, the 6th brother of His Majesty, has been the chief judge for as long as I can remember. This year is no exception. Yes, not only is His Royal Highness a skilled man, but he's also strict and impartial. He's been our judge for several years and has never missed any competitions," Axel continued. Just then, they heard noises coming from outside. "I think His Royal Highness is here," Axel said with a smile. However, despite his smile, he was nervous. His Royal Highness was an ordinary-looking, middle-aged man. He didn't seem like a royal. However, his presence intimidated most people, Axel included. "Why are they making so much noise?" one student from the military academy asked. Another retorted while rolling her eyes. "It's not like he's the crown prince." Just then, they heard an excited voice scream, "His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince is here!" Everybody was astonished. "His Royal Highness? As in Crown Prince Warwick? Shut up!" one girl shouted. At that moment, a teenager walked into the arena. Clothed in a black robe, his perfect figure mimicked the elegance of a stallion. He looked dashingly handsome when the sunlight hit his face, and his hair swayed as he approached the platform. He had a regal expression on his face that could melt the heart of anyone who stared too long. Everybody felt a chill run down their spine. On the other hand, Ariana didn't seem dazzled by Warwick's presence as she frowned. "What's he doing here?" she asked. "Why did he come?" Axel was equally perplexed. He was also caught off guard by what had just happened. He replied, "Since the Crown Prince is here, he may be the chief judge today." Ariana insisted, "Are you sure?" While they were talking, other people were already greeting Warwick. The audience was thrilled at his arrival. Marissa grabbed Leonard's hand and whispered, "It's His Royal Highness. It's the Crown Prince." She didn't dare make too much noise, so she controlled herself and lowered her voice. Leonard was equally excited, so he retorted, "It's him! It's him! Gosh, I never thought I would be so close to His Royal Highness. I think I'm gonna faint." Hallie was also excited. She held Aaron's hand, trembled excitedly, and said, "Look, it's His Royal Highness." Like most people there, Hallie was over the moon to see Warwick. After her initial excitement, Hallie was perplexed when she saw the look in Aaron's eyes. "Why aren't you excited?" she asked her. "Why are you so excited? It's only the Crown Prince," Aaron replied. Hallie's eyes widened and she snapped, "It's only the Crown Prince? Aaron, you're so arrogant now. Why do you make it sound like you always see His Royal Highness?" Aaron rolled her eyes. She had seen the Crown Prince so often that his presence didn't affect her like the other students. "He seems perfect, but all he wants is to keep Ariana for himself," she reasoned and pouted her lips. However, she didn't dare say any of that out loud. When Warwick was around, she was as obedient as a lamb. All the judges stood up and looked at Warwick. General Novachrono arrogantly lifted his chin, pushed Master Madden out of the way, and sat down in the seat closest to the Crown Prince. Prince Warwick hadn't come alone. He had a few people with him. His close friends Jake Grace and Pete Miller were by his side, followed by Toby and a few others. Julius Novachrono moved closer to sit beside the prince, but Jake frowned, stopped him, and explained, "General Novachrono, non-royals must stay 3 yards away from His Royal Highness at all times." The general's smile stiffened, but he wasn't discouraged. Instead, he stepped back, smiled at Jake, and said, "Thank you for your reminder, young Lord Grace. Your Royal Highness, this way, please." To the students, Julius was a supreme figure. However, his rank was nothing compared to the Crown Prince's. He hardly ever had the chance to meet Warwick, let alone speak to him. However, being a judge at the competition gave him that opportunity. From the moment he walked in, Warwick hadn't looked at anybody except Ariana. "Hey," Axel said as he tugged at Ariana's sleeve. "Do you think His Royal Highness is looking in our direction?" Ariana replied angrily, "No." Axel gave her a strange look and asked, "No? Are you sure?" "No, he isn't," Ariana insisted. Axel was confused and continued, "I don't understand you." It was obvious that the Crown Prince had been looking in their direction. Suddenly, Axel felt a chill run down his spine. He looked up and was frozen on the spot because he met the Crown Prince's cold gaze. To be more precise, Warwick was glaring at him. "Captain, what's wrong?" Turin asked after he noticed Axel sweating profusely. Axel tried to reply, but he couldn't get the words out of his mouth. He was panic-stricken, wondering, does His Royal Highness want to kill me? He took a few steps away from Ariana, as though he understood what the Crown Prince meant. I guessed correctly. The Crown Prince does have a thing for Ariana, he reasoned. Ariana was perplexed at Axel's sudden change in behavior and asked, "Why are you moving away? Come over here." Axel waved his hand in a flustered manner and replied, "I'm sweating. I'll just stand over here." Ariana was about to walk to his side, but Axel waved his hands frantically and snapped, "Please don't come near me. I can just stand here. It's fine." Ariana noticed the look of desperation on his face and knew that if she moved any closer, he would burst into tears. She frowned and wondered, what's wrong with this boy? At that moment, Andy jumped out of nowhere. "Ariana! Ariana!" he exclaimed in a friendly tone. He extended his hand and then went to put his arm around her shoulder. It was only a joke because he knew Ariana would react quickly and dodge out of reach. Axel watched in horror. Andy's miserable death was all he could think of. It's not too late to save him, he thought. He panicked and kicked Andy between the legs, as he didn't have enough time to think of any other way to stop him. Andy let out an excruciating cry and fell to the ground. Axel then looked in the Crown Prince's direction. Warwick was talking to Master Madden and wasn't looking in their direction. However, Jake, who had seen everything that had happened, gave his thumbs up. "Young Lord Grace is pleased," Axel murmured, letting out a breath of relief. He understood everything now. It was so obvious. He couldn't understand how Ariana could refuse to accept reality when it was obvious that the Crown Prince liked her. Andy was still wailing on the ground. Only then did Axel remember that he had kicked him in the groin. He had been so caught up in the moment that he had forgotten about Andy. He immediately helped his teammate up. "Are you all right? Does it hurt?" he asked, feigning concern. Andy was furious and replied, "Captain, why did you do that?" Axel advised, "You're a big boy now, so be smart, or you'll get yourself killed one day." Andy was about to retort, but Axel cut him off and explained, "You're a boy, and she's a girl. Keep your distance, and don't call her Ariana." Andy was dumbfounded. "What should I call her?" Axel said, "Anything but Ariana. You can even call her Princess Ariana or Miss Ariana. Do you understand?" Andy nodded in response. Axel went on to teach the rest of his teammates how to address Ariana correctly so they could all stay alive. Turin, who was confused like the rest of his teammates, asked, "Captain, are you in love with Ariana?" At that moment, the Crown Prince glanced in their direction as if he had heard Turin's question. Axel felt his blood run cold. "No, I'm not!" he exclaimed with certainty as he angrily glared at Turin. "If I have any inappropriate thoughts about her, let me be condemned forever." Turin was frightened by his captain's strange behavior. He didn't understand why Axel was so serious. Axel whispered through gritted teeth, "Watch your mouth, you idiot. You'll get us all killed." Turin didn't quite understand what Axel meant, but he had a clue when he saw Warwick staring at them. He fell silent when he saw the Crown Prince's glare. At that moment, Miss Weiss, who had been trying to converse with the Crown Prince, tried to draw Warwick's attention, but she quickly kept quiet when she saw the look on his face. Mr. Yates tried to break the tension at the judges' table, so he suggested, "Shall we start the competition now?" Warwick nodded. Miss Weiss glanced at Mr. Yates and snapped, "Shouldn't His Royal Highness be the one to make that decision?" Mr. Yates looked at Warwick. He noticed that the Crown Prince was looking at the crowd. Warwick took a few minutes before he replied, "Mr. Yates, you can do as you wish." He knew the deputy chief of the military academy well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked him to look after Ariana. Mr. Yates announced, "The two teams should come on stage. The competition is about to commence." Miss Weiss threw a dirty look at Mr. Yates. She was determined to find an opportunity to talk to the Crown Prince. The audience fell silent for a brief moment after the announcement. Then everybody cheered and applauded loudly. They clapped for several minutes until the two teams were ready to go on stage. Luigi led the military academy's team, while Axel led the dynasty team. Luigi was filled with excitement. He and Axel stood very close to each other. Luigi seemed pleased about something as he glanced at Axel and said, "His Royal Highness is the referee this time." Axel nodded and replied, "Obviously, I know that." Luigi smiled and continued, "He's the honorary president of my school." Axel retorted, "All right, so what? Do you think your breakthroughs can affect us?" Luigi asked with a hint of mockery. Axel didn't respond. So Luigi continued, "With His Royal Highness here, my team will win." "Are you suggesting His Royal Highness will be biased toward you?" Axel asked. Luigi found the question idiotic and snapped, "Isn't that obvious?" Axel rolled his eyes and retorted, "You're more clueless than I thought." "What's that supposed to mean?" Luigi snapped angrily. Axel didn't explain, but he looked quite pleased with the effect his words had on Luigi. The last thing the Crown Prince would do is take the military academy's side, he thought. However, he planned on keeping that piece of information a secret. He wanted to see the look on Luigi's face when he finally found out about the relationship between Ariana and Warwick. Luigi frowned. Somehow, he felt Axel was up to something, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Mr. Yates's face darkened when he saw Axel and Luigi whispering to each other. He ordered, "Dynasty team, please announce the order of your players." While Warwick was the chief referee, Jake and Pete didn't have anything to do, so they decided to go and sit in the crowd. There were several empty seats beside Aaron, so she waved at Jake and Pete when she saw that they were looking for seats and yelled, "Over here!" She was sitting with Hallie, Marissa, and a few others, and at first they didn't know whom she was waving at, but they soon saw Jake and Pete approaching them. The students stiffened and fell silent. "Young Lord Grace is coming here, and so is young Lord Miller," Hallie whispered. They weren't just a pair of ordinary young lords. They were the only childhood friends of the Crown Prince. Their words carried more weight than those of any government official. "What are you doing here?" Aaron asked as she patted the seat next to her. These seats haven't been taken yet. Sit down. The competition is about to begin." Jake and Pete nodded and sat down. They had arrived at the last minute, and almost all the places had been taken. The school had reserved seats for them in the official box, but Jake didn't want to sit there. He liked to blend in and listen to the voices of ordinary students. The students sitting around Erin were astonished at how casually she had waved and invited Jake to sit with her. They wondered, are they very close? But none of them asked anything. Instead, they remained straight in their seats and pretended to keep their gazes on the stage. But in actuality, they were attentively listening to Erin's conversation. "Why are you all here?" Erin asked. "Somebody heard somebody else was going to compete today. You know what I mean," Jake replied. Erin immediately got the hint and replied, "I see." But the other students were confused. They had heard everything, but they still understood nothing. Who's somebody? They pondered. Marissa was dumbfounded, but she was too distracted to figure out what Erin and Jake were discussing. She glanced at Erin for a brief second before looking at Warwick again. "His Royal Highness is so handsome," she whispered dreamily. At that moment, Mr. Yates declared, "Dynasty team will announce the order of the players on the Military Academy's team." The news made the students of the Military Academy livid. "What? Why does the Dynasty team get to decide that? There must be a mistake!" A Military Academy student protested. The Sphinx Academy students, on the other hand, were pleased. Axel, without hesitation, announced, "Arsenio will be the first to compete, followed by Belisario, Leighton, Chester, and then Luigi." That order was from the weakest player to the strongest. Luigi had been the first player the year before, and he had single-handedly defeated the Dynasty team. The audience and judges were all confused. Even the varsity team members didn't understand the reasoning behind the arrangement. They all looked at Axel in confusion. Axel raised his shoulders and said, "Don't look at me. It was Ariana's idea." Andy immediately glanced at Ariana and asked politely, "What's the reasoning behind that order?" Having been taught a lesson by Axel, Andy had almost called Ariana Miss Ariana, but he decided that not mentioning her name at all was his safest bet. Ariana replied, "I just want to give everybody a chance to participate in the competition. That's all." The others were speechless, as they believed Ariana was too wise to make up such a simple and thoughtless decision. There has to be something more to it, Andy reasoned. Both teams had 3 spiritual kings. The varsity team still had a shot, even though their spiritual kings were weaker. The spectators were enthused at the prospect of the outcome of the competition. But at that moment, they heard an electric buzzing sound. It was the sound of fluctuating spiritual essence. It happened whenever a cultivator was making a breakthrough into a higher rank. Everyone felt uneasy as they tried to determine where the sound was coming from. Everybody looked at the Military Academy's first team and noticed that the sound was coming from Belisario. He had just become a spiritual king. This can't be happening, Andy thought. It looked like the tables had been turned, as the Military Academy now had 4 spiritual kings. How did he do that? A student from the Sphinx Academy cried. The Sphinx Academy students lost all hope of victory at that moment. They felt defeated. 4 spiritual kings. Our team doesn't stand a chance against them, Hallie exclaimed. In contrast, the students from the military academy were smiling in satisfaction. So what if you can decide the order of our players? No matter how you arrange them, we can still crush you, one of them cried out. Another military academy student added, I knew it. There's no way we'll lose this competition. The military academy is invincible. Some of them even started singing their school anthem. The varsity team was furious, but didn't know how to retort, as the competition had already started. Arsenio was the first player from the military academy. The audience was eager to see whom the Sphinx Academy would send first. Were they going to send Axel, their strongest member, or Kelvin, or surprise everyone by sending Lee, their weakest member? Axel glanced at Ariana. He still had some say in the team's decision-making. After all, he was the team's captain. However, because Warwick was there, he didn't dare undermine Ariana's authority. He didn't have a death wish, so he waited for Ariana to decide. The other teammates were perplexed and didn't know why their captain wasn't saying anything. Axel ignored them and only looked at Ariana and said, I'll agree with whatever decision you make. Ariana asked, Are you sure about that? Yes, you can pick whomever you want. Axel nodded and replied firmly. Ariana tilted her head and said, I think if we want the maximum effect, we should use the fewest number of people to defeat the most opponents. Of course. Axel agreed. I'm sorry, guys, Ariana said to her teammates. Her teammates were confused and asked, Why are you apologizing? Ariana replied, The military academy students are yelling about how Luigi and Chester defeated our team last year. Axel and the other teammates were embarrassed. However, despite their shame, the fact of the matter was that it was true. It had only taken 2 military academy team members to defeat the entire Dynasty team the previous year. It had been such a humiliation. How do you think we should return that favor? Ariana continued. The only way to do that is to defeat all 5 of them with 1 player, Turin explained. All the varsity team members knew that wasn't possible. Ariana nodded, smiled, and replied, You're correct. What? Turin blurted out. That's impossible. Everybody gave Ariana strange looks. She added, Only one of us will fight this time. We'll humiliate them. Despite Ariana's proven capability, they all stared at her in disbelief. What is she talking about? Is she even hearing herself? Axel wondered, concerned she was in over her head. Ariana, I don't think you're considering how difficult this will be, he said. She shook her head and replied, Don't worry about me. I'm only apologizing because you guys probably won't get to compete this time. Turin explained, It's not that. We don't mind whether we compete or not. All the better if it can help us win. It's just that... He sighed, looked down, and mumbled. Prince Warwick is up there, and I think the military academy is going to slaughter us. None of us wants to get beaten in front of the crown prince. Kelvin and Lee nodded in agreement, but Ariana wasn't worried. That's good, she replied. She would have preferred to stay out of the competition. However, the military academy students were too egotistical, and she had to teach them a lesson. Countless people had looked down on her and questioned her capability. It was nothing new to her. They said she was a good doctor and formation master, but she couldn't fight. Ariana decided to demonstrate her proficiency in the competition. At that moment, Mr. Yates urged, "Dynasty team, please send your first player now." Everybody looked in their direction and wondered who would be the first to be defeated. Ariana walked up onto the stage. Her red dress set off her fair skin and bright eyes. In the glowing light, she looked ethereal. No one could take their eyes off her. "I can't believe they made Ariana the first player," Marissa thought. She felt she had to do something. She stood up and cried out, "I thought she would come out much later. She's only the second best player on the team. Isn't it a bit too early to send her out now?" Meanwhile, a military academy student asked, "Who's that? A new spiritual king? Never heard of her before, but she's really pretty." The other boys high-fived him. Ariana and Arsenio both headed up onto the stage. Once they reached their assigned spots, Arsenio did a double take. He was amazed by her beauty, but tried hard to focus on the fight. He frowned and said to her, "I'm not so sure you're prepared to fight me. Why don't you ask if someone more powerful can replace you?" She scowled as she shook her head. He chuckled and replied, "You should be fighting someone at your level. That's the fair way to play." She smirked and whispered in his ear, "I don't play fair." He was taken aback and responded, "You know, I guess it doesn't matter what level you are. I'm still better than you." She scoffed, "We'll see." Ariana didn't give him a chance to retaliate and immediately drew out her fallen star sword. "The first dance, sword of the other world," she exclaimed. She had practiced that stance countless times in the secret essence mine. Arsenio tried to sidestep the strike, but he hadn't counted on her being so powerful. Something descended on him that felt like a tightly woven net that he couldn't break free from. The sky went dark, and thunder rumbled. A streak of lightning struck him. The sword left a wound that stretched from the top of his head to his waist. He was in shock. If the cut had been any deeper, it would have sliced Arsenio in half. He stared at Ariana in astonishment. Some of the audience members booed while others cheered. That was so fast! It only took Ariana one strike to defeat him! Someone cried out. "I know Arsenio is a level 9 spiritual lord, and Ariana is a spiritual king, so he was supposed to lose. Why was she able to defeat him so quickly, though?" Someone else asked. All the Sphinx Academy students were in shock. The Military Academy students were shaken as well, but they soon recovered. "Don't worry about it. That's only the first round," one of their students said. "Ariana must be trying to destroy our confidence. That's why she used her most powerful strike right away," another stated. "That's right. Belisario is next. He just became a spiritual king. He'll teach her a lesson," a boy suggested. They made sure she could hear their speculation in an attempt to intimidate her. Although the Military Academy team was excited to fight such a pretty girl, their enthusiasm quickly died down when they realized how fierce she was, and they desperately wanted to shake her confidence. Meanwhile, Miss Weiss was annoyed. "Ariana has always been an arrogant girl, and she's getting worse. Mr. Yates, is that how you've been teaching your students?" she asked. She was alarmed when she saw how the Crown Prince couldn't keep his eyes off Ariana, so she tried to slander her. Mr. Yates rolled his eyes at her and wouldn't reply, so she grew even more frustrated. She stole our meal at the Star Cloud Tower, and she's fighting like this now. Who does she think she is? She bellowed. Warwick hadn't been paying much attention to Miss Weiss, but when she wouldn't stop talking, he started to get irritated. He cast a stern glance at her. His eyes were so dark that they looked like bottomless pits. Seemingly out of nowhere, a chill ran down her spine. She felt as though a pair of invisible hands had wrapped around her neck to choke her. She was overwhelmed with fear. What's going on? She wondered. She tentatively raised her head and stole a glance at Warwick. She figured she had to be mistaken and that he wasn't causing her discomfort. However, when she looked back at him, she felt her blood curdle. She was frightened and turned away as she lowered her head. Her heart was thumping so hard she thought it was going to beat right out of her chest. She tried to collect herself as the second round started. Belisario headed toward the stage. The Sphinx Academy students were concerned because Ariana was a novice, and the Military Academy members were very confident because Belisario was a spiritual king. Even if he can't defeat her, he'll still badly injure her, Leighton said in a regretful tone. Chester rolled his eyes. Then you'll defeat her without an effort. Why do you sound upset? He asked. Leighton shook his head. I don't want that. I want a fair game, he mumbled. Chester shrugged and replied, I don't think you're going to get what you want. Leighton tilted his head and said reluctantly, I know. At least Belisario and Ariana are the same level. It'll take them a while to finish this battle. He raised his eyebrows and added, I hope Belisario loses because I want to see this girl up close. Chester said sternly, Leighton, this is a competition between two colleges. Stop hitting on girls. Leighton stuck out his tongue at him. Just because you can't attract any women doesn't mean the rest of us shouldn't try. I'm sure Belisario won't give me a chance to challenge her anyway. Meanwhile, Ariana and Belisario's battle had begun. Sword of the other world, Ariana repeated, using the same stance. She only knew 3 stances because that was all her beautiful master had taught her. But those 3 stances were more than enough. Belisario couldn't withstand even one of them. As soon as she struck, he was overwhelmed by the pressure. The shockwave spread from her toward him. Leighton sprang to his feet, and everybody held their breaths. It was the same stance, but it was much more powerful than when she had fought Arsenio. The sword's energy filled the air. There was a killing intent between the 2 players. Her sword arrived before Belisario had time to react. He sensed danger. Run, he thought. He tried to escape, but the spiritual essence surrounded him, blocking his way. Everybody clenched their fists. The Sphinx Academy students wondered if Ariana could defeat Belisario. The Military Academy members wondered if he could dodge the strike. As it turned out, he couldn't. When he turned to run, the sword hit him. The tip of the blade slid across his back. No one knew what Belisario was wearing, but they could tell it was made of metal because sparks flew everywhere from the friction of the sword and armor colliding. Belisario's robe was open, and they could see the armor was made of remarkably durable metal. Even so, the metal garment was almost cut in half. Belisario touched his back, and the armor fell off in 2 halves. His forehead was covered in a cold sweat. If it hadn't been for the armor, he would have been killed. He turned around and glared at Ariana. He had exerted the power of a spiritual king. He had thought the two of them would be on the same level, but it was obvious to him that she had the upper hand. He wouldn't give in, though. "Is that all you've got?" he taunted her. "After the battle with Arsenio and that strike just then, you've used up your spiritual essence. It's my turn now," he roared. He was going to use his most lethal strike. Leighton shook his head. "Ariana is doomed. Even if she can survive this, she'll still be severely injured. Belisario is angry and going to use his most powerful strike called Shadow," he announced. It was the killing strike that he most favored. Belisario had practiced the Shadow sword stance countless times. He couldn't wait to show the crowd his move. He believed that Ariana's spiritual essence had run out, and he was in peak condition. He was prepared to reveal just how capable he was. Or so he thought. "Shadow! Ariana, you're going to die here today!" Belisario growled. The next second, he disappeared from where he was standing. The audience went wild. They searched the stage but couldn't find him anywhere. "Where's Belisario?" someone asked. "How did he do that?" another inquired. "Look, there he is!" a student exclaimed. He had reappeared behind Ariana. Sensing his presence behind her, she spun around, but Belisario wasn't there anymore. "On your left!" a Sphinx Academy student cried out. When she looked to her left, he was gone once more. He was moving too fast. It was as though he had her surrounded, but it was only his after-images. Leighton declared, "I knew it! As soon as Belisario uses Shadow, Ariana is finished!" Chester nodded. "That's right," he agreed. "I was looking forward to fighting her. It's too bad I won't get that chance," Leighton said sadly. "I don't think Belisario will kill her," Chester muttered. "She's so pretty. It'll be a pity if she's severely wounded. I would feel bad for her," Leighton replied. As much as they tried to keep the conversation between them, they were speaking too loudly, so others ended up hearing them. "Why is it suddenly so cold?" Leighton asked as he crossed his arms and began shivering. Chester frowned. "Does your neck feel cold?" he asked. "Yes." Leighton nodded. "My back is cold. It feels like death is behind me," he complained. They looked around but couldn't tell why they were feeling that way. Each saw fear and bewilderment in the other's eyes. Meanwhile, Ariana was in a disadvantageous position. Belisario kept changing directions and striking out with his blade. She was busy dodging his attacks. "Captain, what do you think?" Turin asked nervously. "She won't lose," Axel replied calmly. The other team members were surprised by his confident response. "Why are you so sure?" one of them asked. It was obvious that Ariana was losing at that point. Axel leaned against a column and smiled. "Even if Belisario is better than Ariana, he won't dare defeat her. Don't worry," he declared. Everybody was puzzled. "Why is that? Is she some sort of god or something?" asked Andy curiously. Axel looked at the man who couldn't keep his eyes off Ariana. He chuckled and replied, "That's right. She's a goddess." Everybody looked at Axel and shook their heads. They were annoyed with him because they thought he was being foolish for having so much faith in Ariana. They ignored his comment and discussed the fight among themselves. "Captain Axel's too confident. I don't believe him," one said. "That's right. I think he's infatuated with Ariana. I don't know where he gets that kind of confidence." Another chimed in. "Don't mind him. What do you think the chances are of Ariana winning?" Andy asked. Turin answered. "I would say she has about a 30% chance of defeating him." Kelvin scoffed. "You give her too much credit. She doesn't stand a chance." Lee added, "I agree with Kelvin." Andy was surprised and said, "You guys don't have any faith at all." Lee rubbed his forehead. "She already defeated Arsenio. I think she's done her job. Someone should tell her it's time to give up," he suggested. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Once they accepted that she would lose, they didn't feel so flustered anymore. They watched as she continued to falter. Since her teammates had such low expectations, the audience didn't think she would win either. Marissa rubbed her hands nervously. "I only hope Ariana can badly injure Belisario before she loses. That way, the next player can defeat him," she said. Jake gave her a strange glance. She noticed him peculiarly staring at her, so she asked anxiously, "My lord, did I say something wrong?" Her fawning tone gave Aaron the creeps, so she snapped, "Of course something's wrong. You're wrong. Ariana is invincible. She's going to defeat all 5 of them." Marissa wished she hadn't sat next to Aaron. She found her behavior insufferable. As she edged further from her, Aaron exclaimed, "I mean it. She's going to defeat all 5 of them. Just wait and see." Marissa rolled her eyes and muttered, "Stop bragging already." Aaron snorted at her. Up on the stage, Ariana stood still and narrowed her eyes. Belisario was fast, but he wasn't nearly as fast as she was. The battle was dragging on only because it was part of her plan. She didn't want to reveal her true strength all at once. Luigi was a tough enemy, and she didn't want to raise his guard. Once she was paired with him in battle, she would show everyone just how strong she was. Meanwhile, she and Belisario had exchanged 10 blows. She decided she had given him enough time. While he was still jumping around like a monkey, she flipped her hand. In 1 second, he froze on the spot. His eyes widened in disbelief. She had caught him by the throat with her fingers. His mind went blank, and he couldn't move a muscle. She had rendered him immobile. Belisario had lost all his strength, and his legs felt weak. He fell to his knees. He looked up at Ariana with tears in his eyes and said, "I can't believe this." Everybody else was as shocked as he was. They had been sure he was going to win, especially once they had begun to fight. He had started so strong, and she had been losing initially. Ariana was cornered. How was she able to grab Belisario's neck and subdue him? Leighton cried out. The military academy team, the dynasty team, and the students from both colleges were dumbstruck. Marissa pointed at Ariana and asked, "Has she won the battle?" No one knew how conflicted Marissa was feeling. She had run into Ariana on the first day of school and had initially seen her as an enemy because of her looks and capability. She recalled how the two of them had ended up in the same dormitory and had gotten into a fight. She put a hand on her chest. How could I have been so boorish and hostile toward Ariana? I can't believe I used to be her enemy and tried to set her up to fail, Marissa thought. She buried her face in her hands and wanted to erase all those memories. She was mortified by her behavior. Erin was very pleased with the turn of events. She glowered at everyone who had doubted her when she had predicted that Ariana would defeat the others. She announced proudly, "He's just one spiritual king. She can fight 3 more." Once again, no one believed her. They thought she was foolish for assuming Ariana would defeat the 3 remaining players. As strong as Belisario was, he was 10 times weaker than the other challengers. As the battle was wrapping up, General Julius Novachrono said, "I didn't know Ariana was so talented." The Crown Prince nodded at him. He was happy that the general had admitted how capable Ariana was. However, the general didn't stop there. "But she's too arrogant. She tried to hide her real capability when fighting Belisario. She'll die on a real battlefield," he shouted. He wasn't going to compliment his enemy, and he would only ever say bad things about Sphinx Academy students. Even though he secretly respected Ariana's talent, she belonged to the other team, so he would never reveal his true admiration. He was a member of the military academy, so his job was to discredit the opposing team in front of the Crown Prince in every possible way. He didn't notice that the little smile on Warwick's face had disappeared and that his eyes had darkened. Mr. Yates knew the general was exaggerating, so he interjected. "No, she won't die. Concealing her true power is a good thing. It means she was more than capable enough to defeat Belisario." The general smirked. "She's only slightly better than him. We still have 3 more players," he said. He looked over at the prince. He was making sure Warwick knew that the War Academy had a lot of capable fighters. Julius wanted the Crown Prince to become familiar with his team. That way, many of them would become the Crown Prince's guards one day, which would be a great honor for the military academy. Mr. Yates chuckled. "I think Ariana is going to keep fighting. Maybe she'll defeat all 5 members of your team," he suggested. Warwick glanced at Mr. Yates, pleased by what he said. However, General Novachrono laughed. "That's the funniest thing I've ever heard," he chortled. The Crown Prince's face darkened even more. Ariana was standing on the stage when another military academy member showed up. "His Royal Highness, this is Leighton Floyd. He's the 3rd best student at the military academy," General Novachrono announced. He felt the event was the perfect opportunity to introduce his team members to the prince. Warwick said grimly, "Okay." The general continued. "Prince Warwick, Leighton is a slim boy, but he's known for his great strength. Just wait and see. Ariana won't withstand a single punch from him." The Crown Prince was livid. General Novachrono wanted to say more good things about Leighton, but felt the temperature drop and saw the prince's eyes glint coldly. He cringed and stopped talking. He thought Leighton must have offended the Crown Prince before, and he cursed the boy in his head. Meanwhile, Ariana and Leighton faced each other on stage. Leighton looked at her up and down. She was very beautiful from afar, but up close, she was stunning. He was infatuated for a moment. Ariana didn't like the look in his eyes and she frowned. "Shall we begin?" she asked. He replied arrogantly, "You should give in." She cackled at him and said, "What did you say?" She found his statement idiotic. He smirked and said, "What are you waiting for? Surrender." She thought he was a fool. Chester told Luigi, "I didn't know Leighton had this tender side. He knows Ariana can't defeat him, so he asked her to give in to avoid possible injury. He's usually a very impartial man. He never shows girls such gentleness." Luigi chuckled. "She's pretty. Understandably, he would." They didn't keep their voices down, and all the students heard them along with Ariana. If she could have attacked both of them at that moment, she would have. She was tired of constantly having to prove herself. "I beat them every time. Why are people still doubting me?" she wondered. The Sphinx Academy students thought Ariana should surrender because she had already defeated 2 people. Even if she gave in, she still earned a lot of respect. Turin also thought Ariana should stop while she could. General Novachrono and Vice Principal Weiss both announced confidently that if Ariana didn't give in, she would be humiliated when Leighton kicked her off the stage. Ariana smiled at Leighton. "Is that what you think will happen?" she questioned. He said, "I'm already being very generous." She laughed. "There's something else you can do." "What's that?" he replied. She punched him in the stomach. "Get out of my sight!" she screamed. No one could believe their eyes. Leighton was the team member they were so proud of, and the one they didn't think could lose. He had even advised Ariana to give up. However, after she struck him, he flew backward and hit the wall. His body slid down and fell to the floor. The crowd gasped. The military academy, the dynasty team, and the students from both schools were astonished. They already thought Ariana had pushed her luck when she eliminated Belisario. They all stared at Leighton. He couldn't lift himself off the ground, which meant the battle was over. General Novachrono jumped to his feet, infuriated with his team. "Did you say he's the 3rd best student in your school?" Warwick asked sarcastically. The general froze on the spot and didn't know if he should cry or scream. He's not," he garbled, stumbling over his words. While they had an awkward exchange, the students began to gossip. "Oh, wow! How did she do that?" one cried out. "Am I seeing things? Did that happen?" another asked. "Leighton was defeated without making a move," someone shouted. The military academy students were extremely embarrassed. They had thought that Ariana had a chance at defeating Belisario, but they figured Leighton would win the battle without breaking a sweat. They didn't know how to react after seeing him fly through the air after just one punch. It was as though Ariana had pummeled them as well. Their confidence dipped, and they weren't sure what to do. In contrast to their reactions, the Sphinx Academy students couldn't contain their enthusiasm. Some were jumping up and down. Others howled like wolves. They were so excited and inspired. Unlike when she fought Belisario, Ariana defeated Leighton with just one punch. "Bravo!" One exclaimed, "Ariana's the best! She's invincible!" Another celebrated. All the cheering wasn't enough to express their exhilaration. They itched to run onto the stage and toss Ariana up and down in the air. Mr. Yates was extremely proud that Ariana had shown such vigor and strength. Recalling how the military academy had humiliated them the year before, he smiled even more widely. However, he feigned a modest tone. "That's nothing. Ariana's punch came a little too fast, and your third best student was a half-second too late. If he had reacted a little sooner, she wouldn't have defeated him so easily, right?" General Novachrono threw a dirty look at Mr. Yates. "That man is showing off how fast and clever his student is," he thought. Mr. Yates noticed him stewing and cleared his throat. "Well, you still have more players. There's no need to get upset," he jeered. Miss Weiss glared at him. "Mr. Yates, you're very talkative today. You're so happy, aren't you?" she said. He used to be terrified of Miss Weiss when they were together, but now he grinned. "Well, I'm in a great mood today," he replied. She gritted her teeth. She was furious that he had changed. He wasn't as deferential as he used to be, and she wondered if he had finally stopped loving her. At that moment, someone jumped out of his seat and ran out of the arena. When the students looked closely, they realized it was Roman Hahn. They wondered where he was headed. Roman was confused. He hated his former teammates, especially Axel. However, he also burned with jealousy when he saw how all the team members had made progress because of Ariana. He had thought he would get his revenge when the competition started. He wanted Sphinx Academy to lose, and he hoped to see Ariana die. But instead, she continued winning each battle. He had watched as she defeated Arsenio, Belisario, and Leighton, and he couldn't sit still anymore. He fled from the battle because he needed to see Madeline Monroe. He knew she and Ariana were arch-enemies and believed that Miss Monroe had to know a way to handle Ariana. He ran as fast as he could. Finally, he found Madeline in her garden. Roman was panting when he arrived, and he called out to her breathlessly from behind a closed garden gate. Madeline frowned. She was cultivating, and no one was allowed to disturb her. She was going to kick him out, but before she could reach the door, he shouted, "Ariana's going to win!" She stopped dead in her tracks. With a wave of her hand, she opened the door. "What did you say?" she asked him. She knew the competition was taking place, but she didn't have any interest in watching it. She was the deputy chief of the academy and felt she was too important to attend such a competition. Moreover, Mr. Yates hadn't invited her, so she simply ignored the event. He rushed in and shouted, "I have terrible news! Ariana has defeated Arsenio, Belisario, and Leighton. She's getting all the attention." He knew how Madeline would react, since she was someone who got jealous over the smallest thing. As Ariana's archenemy, Madeline couldn't stand hearing about her rival's success and capability. She hadn't planned to intervene in the battles, but when she heard the news, she became very upset. She looked Roman up and down, noticing how exhausted he was from racing to report back to her about Ariana's battles. Even though I can't believe it, he must be telling the truth. Otherwise, he wouldn't be such an exhausted mess, she thought. Keep talking, she commanded. He replied, Ariana has beaten Arsenio, Belisario, and Leighton. She rolled her eyes at him. She knew the level of all three students and had some idea of Ariana's level because she had fought her previously. It didn't surprise her that the girl had defeated them. She was glad she hadn't attended the competition because she would have been irritated by Ariana's triumph. Is that it? She asked coldly. Roman was taken aback by her indifferent response. Was that not enough to persuade her? He wondered. Suddenly, he realized how he could coax her to join him at the event. His Royal Highness is there. He couldn't take his eyes off Ariana, he said. Madeline paled. His Royal Highness, Prince Warwick? Are you sure? She asked. She felt anger rise inside of her. She didn't want to see Ariana win, but she was worried that Warwick was there. He's already... No, he doesn't like Ariana at all. Why can't she just leave Prince Warwick alone? What if he falls in love with her after seeing her fight, though? She wondered. She had a bad feeling. She sprang to her feet, her face dark. When did Prince Warwick arrive at the competition? She asked hurriedly. Roman knew he had caught Madeline's attention. He's been there since Ariana's first battle. His eyes lit up every time she won, he explained. Madeline breathed out heavily. She sucked her teeth as she began to ruminate. Roman noticed she was deep in thought, so he added, What if she can defeat Chester and Luigi? She bragged that she would defeat all 5 players from the military academy. If that happens, she'll be so popular among the students. And what about the prince? He's your fiancé now, but what if he falls in love with Ariana? Roman tried to prod her into action. I'm sorry to say this, but Ariana is prettier than you, he admitted. Shut up, she screamed as she waved her hand. Roman was lifted into the air and smashed into the wall. He fell to the ground. Madeline glared at him as if she was going to kill him. Her intimidating power made his heart race, and he didn't dare say a word. He was on the ground trying to recover when he saw her take out a dagger. The blade glinted in the sunlight. Roman paled. He was terrified. Is Madeline going to kill me? He wondered. He had only been telling the truth. Madeline wasn't as pretty as Ariana. However, he knew he shouldn't have said it. From the look on her face, he thought she might stab him. He was about to beg for mercy when she made her move. Instead of attacking Roman, she slid the blade across her palm. Roman stared at Madeline in astonishment as she filled a vial with her blood, making it glow red. What is she doing? Roman wondered. She's up to something. This is true phoenix blood, she explained, handing him the vial. Noting his puzzled expression, she went on. It'll give whoever drinks it a brief energy boost. Luigi Laredo knows how to use it. Give it to him. He'll know what to do when the time comes. I didn't know Miss Monroe and Luigi already knew each other, Roman mused. Sounds like they've got some sort of secret arrangement. Seemingly aware of his glee at owning confidential information, Miss Monroe brought him up sharp.
No one knows about this except you, me, and Luigi. So if I hear about it from anyone else—"
Roman raised his hand. "I swear on my life, I won't tell anybody."
"Sensible decision."
What have I gotten myself into? Roman wondered nervously as he turned to go back to the arena to find Luigi. Maybe I shouldn't have come to her with this after all. This is getting out of hand.
"Stop!"
Roman froze at the sound of Madeline's command, then turned to face her. She paused as if weighing something in her mind, and then she removed a phoenix-shaped jade pendant from her pocket and gave it to him.
"Tell Luigi that he owes me a big favor," she said.
Roman looked at the pendant in bewilderment. She's already giving him some of her blood. What could deserve a bigger favor than that, I wonder?
"It'll only take a drop of true phoenix blood on the pendant to wake what's inside,"
Madeline explained. Roman nodded and hurried off to find Luigi before the battle was over. Madeline allowed herself a satisfied smile as she watched him leave. Closing the door behind her, she strolled toward the arena. In the center of the stage, Ariana and Chester faced each other. "I didn't see that coming," he conceded. "I never thought you could defeat 3 of us in a row."
"Well then, prepare yourself for more surprises."
Chester grinned at what he assumed was hubris. "No, you'll lose this time."
"Is that so?"
"Get real, Ariana," Chester reasoned as they traded verbal blows ahead of their contest. "I've been a spiritual king for a year. How long is it for you now?"
Less than 3 days."
"Have you learned the skills that go with that level yet?"
"No."
"Have you stabilized your manifestation level yet?"
"No."
"Then," he said with a laugh, "tell me, how are you going to win against me?"
"Tell me,"
Ariana responded.
"Are you here to talk or to fight?"
The crowd laughed, enthralled by the pre-match war of words. They spoke excitedly among themselves. "Ariana seems impatient." "She must be. I would want to get on and fight too, if someone kept on at me like that." "Shut up! He's a spiritual king. He's trying to give her a way out." "Is he, though? I might have agreed with you, but she's already seen off 3 spiritual kings from the military academy. Maybe it's Chester who's looking for a way out." "So much for this being an easy win for the military academy. I think Sphinx Academy has the better chance of winning now." The voices of the crowd carried to Chester. Used to being treated like a hero, his face turned scarlet with indignation. He glared at Ariana with eyes filled with hatred. In return, she shrugged. "I'm not laughing at you." That only served to further infuriate him. "I was going to show you some mercy, but it seems you have a death wish. Have it your way." All thoughts of sportsmanship forgotten, Chester swiftly unsheathed Blitzen, his sword, and lifted it skyward, filling the sky with lightning. "He's going to use the thunder element." Marissa put a hand on her chest. "That's the hardest to master. Is Ariana going to be all right?" "Here we go again. This is what he did last year," replied another spectator. "Poor Sunil. He's not recovered from that attack. Ariana wasn't here then, so she won't know what to expect," said another. "I think her luck might finally have run out." "Ariana, watch out!" There was a collective gasp from the crowd as they saw Chester point his sword at Ariana, and the lightning rushed toward her. "You've already done a great job. Just give up. It's not worth it." In the judges' enclosure, Miss Weiss gleefully rubbed her hands. I knew it, she gloated. This is where she loses. She doesn't stand a chance against Chester. Prince Warwick, overhearing her, allowed himself a sly smile. 3 strikes, the military academy's vice principal went on, her confidence restored by what was happening in the arena. That's all it'll take now. Chester's Blitzen will certainly leave its mark on her. General Novachrono nodded. She'll be lucky to come out of this alive. Remember what happened to that student last year? Still in recovery, I heard. Shame, though, he added, glancing over at the Crown Prince. That girl has such a pretty face. It's going to be scarred by Blitzen. Prince Warwick returned General Novachrono's glance with a ferocious glare. You don't agree with me, Your Royal Highness? The general asked. The tension between the two was almost as thick as that between the 2 combatants in the arena. It looks like I struck a nerve, mused the officer. Might the Crown Prince be in love with Ariana Grace? Surely not. I'm sure I heard that he is engaged, though. He pondered. Not to her, I'm sure. He wiped beads of sweat from his forehead as recollection dawned and his heart rate returned to normal. That's it. He's in love with Madeline Monroe, the sacred lady of the Celestial Palace. Of course he is. How stupid of me to have imagined it could be a nobody like that Grace girl. Breathing a sigh of relief, he turned his attention back to the arena. When he saw what was happening on stage, he was appalled. No, what went wrong? How did this happen? He asked as he looked around for an explanation. I only looked away for a moment. His cold sweat returned. Far from losing the battle, Ariana was raising the fallen star sword. Star and moon, thunder and soul, die! The crowd watched, awestruck, as she conjured the full force of the thunder element. Luigi, who had been sitting idly in his seat, sprang to his feet. Miss Weiss paled. All eyes were on the fallen star sword, watching for when it might strike. In the center of the arena, streaks of lightning surrounded the sword, and the rumbling thunder was almost suffocating. Where did she learn that? Chester panicked. I thought she only knew the fire element, and I could just about handle that. Is it too late to run? The lightning formed a web, and a crackling noise filled the air. Chester looked up, terrified, as the web grew bigger. He looked across at his opponent, her fair skin illuminated by the lightning flashes, her red dress rippling in the air, and her eyes closed in concentration as she kept the fallen star sword pointed skyward. He felt the ground and even the air shake as energy from the sword surged into the lightning web suspended above his head. It's not possible! Miss Weiss cried from the judge's enclosure, her whole body trembling. How can she do that? She was terrified. Miss Weiss wrung her hands and stamped her feet in impotent rage. She can't do that, she fumed. Not Chester. Chester Chaikin was one of the best students in the military academy and had helped them to a clean sweep the previous year. Out loud, their vice principal tried to sound calm. No, he'll have more cards up his sleeve. He can turn this around, you'll see. General Novachrono nodded supportively. I have no doubt. This won't last. Chester won't lose. He certainly won't lose to just a girl. Just a girl? Prince Warwick could no longer remain silent. What girl would that be? He asked, feigning indifference. Behind the Crown Prince, his steward, Toby, rolled his eyes. Ariana Grace, Your Royal Highness, said General Novachrono. She's the girl who got so greedy and destroyed her manifestation. With that sort of character, it's bound to happen again, however much progress she's made. We wouldn't accept her as a student at the military academy, even if she begged us. Toby listened in morbid fascination. You're treading on thin ice there, General, he thought. The Crown Prince simply regarded General Novachrono with a cold smile. What did I do? Wondered the officer. I don't think I said anything to offend him. I thought he'd be pleased to hear me taking a stance against his fiancé's rival. He was jolted out of his contemplation of how to make amends by a loud thump. Looking in the direction of the noise, he saw a bolt of lightning strike Chester. No! He cried. This can't be happening. Why didn't you move out of the way? Perhaps you weren't watching at the time, Mr. Yates explained. Ariana used ground control, so he can't move. He could only watch as the lightning struck him. Ground control? General Novachrono felt his stomach lurch. I didn't know anyone still practiced that. How does she know it? I thought it required the earth element. But doesn't she just have fire? And maybe thunder? Those elements are just the start. Mr. Yates struggled to hide the satisfaction in his voice. Our Ariana could master all the elements if she wanted. Your Ariana? Mr. Yates was brought up short by the voice of the Crown Prince. No, not ours. Sorry, yours, obviously. The tutor stammered. Standing behind Prince Warwick, Toby gave Mr. Yates the thumbs up for his quick recovery. Phew, thought the tutor. Might not have gotten away with that. How could I let myself get so carried away? General Novachrono, unaware of Toby's signal, smirked. Signing your death warrant, Mr. Yates? What do you mean, signing my death warrant? What did I do? Mr. Yates looked at General Novachrono in bewilderment. I distinctly heard you refer to Ariana Grace as His Royal Highnesses, came the smug response. That's a capital offense. How so? Surely you know that her engagement to the Crown Prince was annulled. I do, but don't you know what that means? It means His Royal Highness doesn't just dislike Ariana, he detests her. And what about the other young lady? General Novachrono continued, oblivious to Prince Warwick's growing anger. She's going to be the Crown Prince's future wife. Had the general taken the time to look at the Crown Prince's face, he would have seen that it was clouded with confusion at that statement. You should kneel and apologize immediately. General Novachrono went on, while Mr. Yates stared at him blankly. His Royal Highness is a noble and lenient gentleman. Otherwise, he would have killed you on the spot. But I can't let this go. Normally, as a steward, Toby would have intervened, guiding the man away rather than allowing the situation to escalate. But he was keen to see whether his proud master would finally admit in public that Ariana was his fiancée. He therefore kept his counsel and quietly repositioned himself to get a view of Prince Warwick's expression. He had done nothing to defuse the situation, and the Crown Prince gave his steward a stern look. "Come on, Your Royal Highness," Toby silently urged him. "Why is it so hard for you to openly admit what this girl means to you?" He watched, thrilled, as Prince Warwick's earlobes turned pink and his lips parted. Finally, he thought, he's going to tell them. "Come on, Your Royal Highness, do it." Refusing to turn around at the sound of footsteps approaching from behind, Toby kept his gaze on the Crown Prince. Still, Prince Warwick hesitated. The footsteps moved closer and closer. The arrival of the acting deputy chief of Sphinx Academy drew the crowd's attention, and the students started shouting out, "Miss Monroe is here!" "Is she here to watch the competition?" "I heard she's the Crown Prince's fiancée." "Ooh, this is tense. She's going to humiliate Ariana." General Novachrono looked up and greeted their newcomer enthusiastically. "Miss Monroe, I was hoping you would join us." Seeing that she hadn't taken her eyes off Prince Warwick as she moved toward him, the officer took the opportunity to gain what he assumed would be the definitive view on the issue at hand. "Miss Monroe, perhaps you could settle something for us. Is Ariana Grace His Royal Highness's fiancée?" Miss Monroe's arrival had caught the attention of the entire arena, including the combatants. In the judges' enclosure, Prince Warwick, who had hesitated to put General Novachrono right when he had declared so loudly that the Crown Prince was engaged to Madeline, looked grim as she strode closer. Toby, his steward, was enjoying the spectacle. If only Maria were here to watch this, he thought wistfully. He and Maria Jameson worked closely together at the palace. The visiting students from the military academy, in the crowd to support their team, looked at the newcomer and were amazed by her ethereal beauty. They discussed the situation among themselves. "Look at her. She has perfect posture. No wonder she's the sacred lady of the Celestial Palace." "I heard that Ariana Grace has been calling herself the Crown Prince's fiancée. The real one is here now, though. How embarrassing." "Yeah, she might have won 4 battles in a row, but what does that matter? She hasn't won Prince Warwick." The defeated members of the military academy's first team, Arsenio Arango, Belisario Bean, Chester Chaikin, and Leighton Floyd, were cheered at the thought that their humiliation would be overshadowed by deeper shame for their vanquisher. They looked toward Miss Monroe, eager for her to deliver the blow. "Say it!" they urged. "Tell everyone that you're his fiancée. Turn Ariana Grace into a joke." The arrival of their acting deputy chief stirred different feelings among the Sphinx Academy's Dynasty team. "Why is she here now?" Andy Wang asked. "She sure knows how to pick a moment." "Yeah," agreed Turin with a grimace. "We're finally on the point of winning this. Ariana's got the crowd behind her and is riding high on that. If Miss Monroe tells everyone that she's the one who's engaged to the Crown Prince, she'll lose that support, and we might as well wave goodbye to this competition." "What's with all the whining?" Axel Leone was a lone voice of confidence. "Ariana is still gonna win this." He couldn't share it with his team, but he was rather looking forward to Miss Monroe's reply. The others turned away, unable to share their captain's optimism. Up in the crowd, Marissa McDonald grasped the hand of her neighbor. "I'm so nervous. We have to do something, she whispered. Aaron extricated her hand and looked sideways at her. What do you mean? Their engagement. They're going to make Ariana a laughing stock. Aaron sighed. And where did you get that idea? Surely you know. Ariana's been making out that she's the Crown Prince's fiancé, but she can't be. She is. No, Miss Monroe is. No, she isn't. Are you sure? Marissa studied Aaron's face for signs of it being a joke. Are you saying that they're engaged? Ariana and Prince Warwick, I mean. Yes, that is what I'm saying. Marissa hesitated, then snorted. Like I'm going to believe you. I still say you're wrong, maintained Marissa. Why else would Miss Monroe and Prince Warwick be together at such a big event? If not to make their engagement official. I wish she'd left it to another time, though. Ariana will be so embarrassed, and we need her to be on top of her game here. Aaron was speechless. That girl just won't listen to reason, she thought, as her attention turned back to the judge's enclosure. General Novachrono felt he had waited long enough and was eager for Madeline to confirm that he was correct about their engagement. What's the matter, Miss Monroe? Are you trying to spare the girl's feelings? While the attention of everyone in the arena was on her, Madeline alone was looking at Prince Warwick.
Is he about to speak? She wondered. What will he say? He can't have said anything yet, or they wouldn't be asking me. So that must mean that he isn't sure about Ariana after all. In that case, I still have a chance. And even if he does still prefer her, she still has to fight Luigi. At that thought, she smiled at General Novachrono. I think we're in danger of forgetting why we're here. How about we wait until the competition is over? The general hid his disappointment behind an indulgent smile. You're such a kind woman. That's so rare these days. In the center of the arena, no longer the focus of attention, Ariana shook her head in disbelief at the conversation that had carried to her. Kind? She thought. He doesn't know her at all. Having seen off Chester Chaikin, she turned to the final member of the military academy's team, their captain, Luigi Laredo. Your turn, she said. Luigi remained seated. He had been trying to figure out how Ariana had won 4 battles in a row. Despite replaying everything in his head, he still couldn't come up with an answer. He raised his hand and said, I request an hour's timeout. The crowd murmured. What was that? A timeout? What's he up to? We asked for a timeout after every battle last year. We thought it would throw them into confusion, but it didn't make the slightest difference. Well, it'll be up to the head judge whether to allow it. It's not been a problem before, though. In the judge's enclosure, General Novachrono wasn't worried at all. Asking for the Crown Prince's permission was a mere formality. He looked at Prince Warwick in expectation. Your Royal Highness, since Luigi denied, snapped the prince. What? I mean, I beg your pardon, sir? Asked Luigi. There was a shocked silence in the arena before a collective murmuring. Did he say denied? Why? That's never happened before. Can he even do that? Only Toby felt he knew what lay behind the Crown Prince's answer. Just wait, he thought. It'll be worth it when he finally comes clean about the engagement. Feeling blindsided, General Novachrono looked pleadingly at Prince Warwick, but the expression on the prince's face left him in no doubt that there was to be no negotiation. Turning to face the arena, he commanded, "Let the final round commence." "It'll be okay, though," he told himself. "Luigi's more than capable of defeating all 5 of his opponents. The timeout wouldn't have made any difference." While everybody had been focusing on the events in the judges' enclosure, Roman had slipped Luigi the vial and pendant from Miss Monroe. Luigi clenched the objects in his hand before tucking them safely into his pocket for later. Now that he had received such valuable gifts from the future wife of the Crown Prince, Luigi had no more need for a timeout. "These are so much better than anything more Miss Monroe might have taught me if they had let me have that extra hour," he decided. Replaying all of Ariana's moves in his head, he was convinced he could win the battle without breaking a sweat. Miss Monroe had taught him well. Feeling invincible, he rose to his feet and strode into the center of the arena to face his opponent. Having watched the defeat of the first 4 members of their team, the supporters of the Military Academy's team went wild at the sight of their first team captain approaching the combat with such swagger. "Come on, Luigi! Take them all down! All 5! All 5! He raised his hand and gestured downward. Immediately, the Military Academy students quieted down. In the hush that followed, he raised his fist. "Victory to the Military Academy!" he cried. His exoration was greeted with a roar of applause from his supporters, who took up the chant, "Victory to the Military Academy! Victory to the Military Academy!" In the judges' enclosure, General Novachrono was thrilled. Forgetting himself at the moment, he turned to Prince Warwick. "That's Luigi, Your Royal Highness. He's our top student. He's amazing," he gushed. "Last year, he helped to crush Sphinx Academy's team, bringing glory to our school." "Our school?" thought Mr. Yates. "The Crown Prince isn't going to like that at all. He was a founding member of the Dynasty team that you're so keen to see beaten." He watched Prince Warwick's face for a reaction, but the Crown Prince was practiced in hiding his emotions. Seemingly oblivious to any offense he may be causing, General Novachrono went on. "Luigi is a peak level 1 spiritual king. He could rise to level 2 at any moment. Last year on the battlefield," he continued, "he took down 10 cultivators of his level in 1 strike. 1 strike! And he's had a whole year to improve, so he'll be even stronger now. Luigi will bring home another victory to the Military Academy. Mark my words, Ariana will never be his match." He paused, and Mr. Yates hoped that he had realized the folly of his speech. "I have a request," General Novachrono suddenly stated. Everybody looked at the general in surprise. He was so confident of victory. What could he possibly have to request? "The course of a fight is always unpredictable. Anyone can get injured, especially at this level," the general continued. "Enough!" shouted Prince Warwick. "But, Your Royal Highness, Toby cut him short with a stern look. "General, are you suggesting that the competitor sign a disclaimer so that neither is responsible for killing the other?" How did he know? General Novachrono wondered. "General," warned Toby, seeing that he was about to repeat his request, "I think you've said enough." The officer was speechless. What's happening? He wondered.
scratching his head. First the timeout request, and now this. They won't agree to any of my requests. Do I have so little authority here? General Novachrono cast his mind back over the events of the day, trying to work out where things had started to go wrong for him. In the center of the arena, oblivious to the events in the judges' enclosure, Luigi was taunting Ariana ahead of their contest. Stretching his arms out in front of him, he clapped sarcastically. "Good job! I'm impressed," he said in a voice dripping with condescension. "I thought you were just a junior. I guess everybody makes mistakes sometimes." "Some make more mistakes than others," replied Ariana calmly. Luigi stared at her before suddenly breaking into a chuckle and shaking his head. "They were right. You don't take compliments well." "They? Did you think I was just sitting there watching while you were fighting? Oh no, I found out everything about you." "Is that so?" "It is," he confirmed. "I've collected all the information on you. I know your most powerful stances, the elements you excel in, your defense ability, and your other fields of specialty." All thanks to Miss Monroe, he thought. Your school's deputy chief makes an excellent partner, and the former captain of your junior varsity team is the perfect gopher. If you only knew. Ariana regarded him curiously. "What information could you possibly have collected in such a short time? Don't make me laugh." "I know a lot more than you think," he bragged. "For instance, I know about your expertise in formations and medicines." Ariana narrowed her eyes. "Who told you that?" she asked. Fearing that his voice would carry to the judge's enclosure, Luigi stepped closer and whispered, "Take a wild guess." He felt a chill run down his spine. This is my big chance, he thought. Miss Monroe is going to marry the crown prince, and Ariana is her arch rival. Get rid of her, and I'll be set for life. "I admire your courage," he said. "You know you're going to lose, but you're still going to fight me." "You talk too much. Let's fight." Ariana charged. Striking first would help her gain the upper hand. "Will she win?" Andy nervously asked Turin. "What do you think?" Turin replied miserably. Andy shook his head sadly. "Not a hope." "Axel, what about you? Do you think Ariana will win?" Turin asked hopefully. The team captain had always buoyed them with his optimism, but even he hesitated that time. "Maybe?" Turin was despondent. "If even you aren't sure, then she's going to lose," he said. "We're just being realistic," Andy reasoned. "Ariana's only a junior level 1 spiritual king. Luigi is at the peak of that level. It's almost an entire level between them." At the center of the arena, Ariana had exchanged 99 blows with Luigi, all of them potentially killing moves. Her face was a study of cold determination, whereas her opponent was fighting with just one hand, his movements unhurried as he effortlessly fended off the attack. The combatants in the center of the arena continued to trade blows. 100, 200, 300 blows, all killing moves, and still Luigi kept a hand behind his back and showed no sign of losing ground. "He's going to win, isn't he?" Turin said anxiously. "Ariana is giving it all she's got, but he's barely trying." Axel nodded. "Right. We need to talk tactics. Who's up next?" I think the strongest should go first to stall him, Turin suggested. Then, that won't work. Andy cut in. Luigi's too powerful. Look at him. We're not going to be able to wear him out. The team fell silent in solemn acknowledgement of the impossibility of the task that lay ahead. In the center of the arena, Ariana was still losing ground, and Luigi was maneuvering to corner her. In the judges' enclosure, Miss Weiss was gloating, and General Novachrono could barely contain his excitement. It was surely only a matter of time before their star student kicked the upstart out of the contest and ended her lucky streak. They waited, poised for celebration. And still, they waited, and exchanged decreasingly confident looks. How can she still be fighting? Miss Weiss wondered. If anything, she's getting faster and nimbler, and there's barely a mark on her. The same sense of surprise spread to the supporters of the Dynasty team, but with the opposite effect. She's still standing, marveled Marissa, her confidence growing. How has she dodged all those attacks? How long have they been at it now? Asked Aaron. No idea. I can't look away, though. This is great, isn't it? Ariana may not have Luigi's strength, but she's brilliant at spotting an opportunity. And then she doesn't waste it. Is that her tactic, do you think? Is she trying to wear him down? In the center of the arena, a similar thought occurred to Luigi. You know you're going to lose, but you won't give up, he said between blows. I don't know where you find the courage. It's because I know I'm going to win, Ariana declared. Ha! That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Tell you what, if you win, you can have my head. A ball of fire appeared in his hand. With a sweeping gesture, he trapped the two of them inside a ring of flames. Now you have nowhere to run. Let the real battle begin, he yelled. Opening his palm, he conjured an impressive sword. White flame! One of Luigi's teammates cried out. The mood among the rest of the military academy's team immediately lifted at the sight of the sword. Ariana has forced him to use that, has she? I'm impressed. It's all over for her now. Luigi is finally taking this seriously. Good. Ariana won't be able to jump around like a flea with that ring of fire in place. There's nowhere for her to hide. The Sphinx Academy students started to murmur with dismay. Luigi's just been playing around until now, a fan of Ariana's muttered. The fan's friend replied, Now he's getting serious. Will Ariana be able to vanquish him? Anger stirred in Luigi's heart. Ariana had surprised him with her fierce fighting skills, and he hated surprises. He swept his sword through the air like a scythe. Flames burst forth from the blade. You're a dead woman, Ariana Grace, he snarled. He swept his sword through the air again as he called out a stance. 9 wings, he shouted. A sound like thunder broke loose. Waves of lethal energy surged from Luigi's sword and wrapped themselves around Ariana. The onlookers gasped. The Military Academy students snickered smugly, while the Sphinx Academy students screamed despairingly. The Crown Prince sat in stony silence with the other judges and watched the proceedings. His black eyes glittered menacingly at Luigi. The Military Academy's team captain was the most formidable opponent Ariana had faced in all the many fights she had been engaged in on Sphinx Academy's premises. He was a peak level 1 spiritual king, which made him far more powerful than she was. Ariana was a newly minted Junior Level 1 spiritual king. But Ariana didn't panic. As so often happened when she was under tremendous pressure, she felt calm determination seize hold of her soul. She smiled the enigmatic half-smile her adversaries had seen her smile on so many previous occasions. She squared her shoulders, took a calming breath, and unsheathed her fallen star sword. Then she took a second to offer a silent prayer of thanks to the White Fairy. The Ghost Queen had helped her find long-hidden frescoes in the Big Sky Prairie's tombs. The murals had provided her with instructions on how to perform powerful moves known as the Pounce Upon skill set. Ariana had mastered the moves quickly and had made sure to practice them frequently after returning home. Now she was going to unleash them on Luigi. She started with the first move. "Earth crack!" she shouted in her most authoritative voice. It sounded very authoritative indeed, because she was a spiritual king. Then she yelled, "Earth collapse!" That was the name of the second Pounce Upon move. Then she cried out, "Earth control!" That was the third Pounce Upon move's name. The onlookers gasped once again. According to the history books they had read, no living person had ever had the opportunity to learn the Pounce Upon skill set. The history books had been wrong. Ariana was oblivious to the crowd's reaction. "Earth control plus dazzle!" she thundered. That was the fourth movement's name. Then she shouted the name of the fifth move. "Earth control plus speed reduction!" she commanded. Then she roared, "Earth control plus freeze!" That was the name of the sixth Pounce Upon move. Luigi was stunned. He had assumed that usually impressive 9 wings stance would utterly vanquish Ariana. He had anticipated applause and adulation from his fellow military academy students. He had imagined his team would win its second victory in 2 years. Instead, he was being besieged by an unexpectedly fearsome attack from an opponent with a lower spiritual ranking than his own. "Damn that Miss Monroe," he thought furiously. Her research didn't say Ariana had mastered the legendary Pounce Upon skills. Luigi mustered every last ounce of his strength and performed his most lethal move. Ariana's sword leaped to meet his. Lightning flashed from their blades and momentarily blinded the spectators. It flashed again, and the onlookers covered their eyes. "Oh my God!" most of them thought. "Who will win?" Aaron and Warwick were the only people who were confident Ariana would prevail. The onlookers uncovered their eyes in time to see the competing waves of spiritual energy rush forth from the 2 swords and collide. A fireball exploded. The noise momentarily deafened everyone in the arena, so nobody could hear Luigi's agonized scream as White Flame, his prized sword, shattered into sharp shards that scattered like dust. For a moment, everyone in the arena remained temporarily deafened by the explosion. They sat in stunned silence as the smoke from the explosion cleared away. They could see Ariana holding her fallen star sword and standing tall like a battle goddess. They could see Luigi lying unconscious on the stage amid the shards of his shattered sword. The fighting ring with which he had encircled Ariana and himself had disappeared. Tears began trickling down the faces of Luigi's fans. It was their turn to scream despairingly. Ariana's fans heard the screams and realized their temporary deafness had ended. Their sense of humiliation over the previous year's defeat evaporated into thin air. Some of them started chanting her name, as others shouted with glee. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" screamed a Class A student. "I can't believe it!" His friend shrieked. "I thought Ariana was a dead woman when Luigi brought out the white flame, but she shattered it like a toothpick." Warwick's black eyes glittered admiringly. Ariana's teammates sat quietly. They feared they would wake up and find out it had all been a dream. Luigi's teammates sat quietly too. They prayed they would wake up and find out it had all been a nightmare. Vice Principal Weiss and General Novachrono were overwhelmed by disbelief and dismay. The general murmured, "This can't be happening." The vice principal clenched her jaw to keep from spewing a string of curse words. Her ex-husband cast a triumphant glance at her. "Our new student's quite a fighter, isn't she?" Mr. Yates said. Miss Weiss used every ounce of willpower she possessed to keep from lunging at her ex-husband. She longed to claw his eyes out, but she knew the Crown Prince would find such behavior unseemly. She thought, where did Ariana learn those pounce-upon moves? Ariana strode over to Luigi and gazed down at him. When he collapsed onto the stage, he bruised his face. Ariana knew how vain he was, and she fleetingly thought, when he looks in a mirror and sees those bruises, he's going to be annoyed. Master Mage had taught her to be courteous to her vanquished adversaries when the occasion warranted it. So she politely told Luigi, "Your battle skills were formidable." Her voice jolted him into consciousness, and his eyes flew open. He struggled into a sitting position and fixed her with a furious glare. Luigi had never lost a fight to anyone who was his age. It was a novel experience, and it was awful. "You vicious little vixen," he thought. "You broke my ring of fire. You destroyed my sword. You humiliated me in front of my admirers. How will I ever live it down?" Suddenly, he started laughing wildly, so his teammates thought he sounded unhinged. Then he snarled, "I have not yet begun to fight." The onlookers gasped yet again. Ariana had destroyed Luigi's sword, snuffed out his ring of fire, and knocked him unconscious. But he had refused to concede defeat. The military academy students were jolted out of their despair. What will he do next? They wondered. They whispered excitedly to one another. The Sphinx Academy students were distraught. For a fleeting moment, victory had been theirs, and they had wanted to hold on to it. What sneaky tricks does Luigi have up his sleeve? They wondered. Suddenly, they recalled the humiliation they had suffered because of their school's defeat in the previous year's competition. Their faces burned with shame once again. "What do you think?" Turin murmured so quietly that only Axel could hear him. Axel replied just as quietly. "Sphinx Academy has a 50% chance of winning this competition." Turin's blood ran cold. He mused. Axel's one of Ariana's most stalwart supporters. If he thinks our chances are 50-50, we're surely going to lose. A tense silence fell over the scene. Time passed, and the silence lengthened. Luigi stayed in a seated position, but his furious glare never wavered. Suddenly, he exclaimed, "Ariana Grace! If you surrender, I will spare your life." She replied, "I will never surrender." Luigi said, "Imagine the grief your loved ones will suffer when you die. Your mother will cry over your coffin." Ariana used every ounce of willpower she possessed to keep from lunging at her opponent. She longed to claw his eyes out. But she knew his taunt had been meant to enrage her and keep her from focusing on the fight that was about to ensue. She didn't want him to think it had succeeded. Luigi had mentioned Lady Britta because the report Madeline had given him had mentioned the easiest way to upset Ariana was to threaten her emotionally fragile mother. The report had said Ariana was very protective of Britta, whose husband had abandoned her many years earlier. It had said that Britta had suffered an illness that had impaired her cognitive abilities and diminished her cultivation level. Luigi tried another taunt. "How will your mother survive when you're gone?" he sneered. Ariana forced her facial expression to remain neutral. The Sphinx Academy students began hissing and booing. One of her classmates shouted, "What a bully you are, Luigi! Leave Ariana's loved ones out of this!" Another classmate screamed, "You stupid boy! Ariana flattened you! If you surrender to her, maybe she'll spare your life." A third classmate yelled, "You're all talk and no action, Luigi." Marissa, who had kept silent until then, cried, "A sudden breakthrough's the only thing that can save you from Ariana's superior fighting skills." Ariana shot a glance at Marissa, who wondered if she had said something wrong. Once again, Luigi started laughing wildly. His teammates thought he sounded unhinged. "Oh, Ariana," he cackled. "Your classmate must be a mind reader." He closed his eyes and sat very still. Once again, tense silence fell over the scene. Waves of spiritual essence emanated from him. Yet again, the onlookers gasped. They were all cultivators, and they knew a breakthrough when they saw one. They knew Luigi had just advanced from a peak level 1 spiritual king to a level 2 spiritual king right in the middle of an intercollegiate competition. The military academy students cheered uproariously. "No!" Marissa shrieked. She stifled a sob of embarrassment as her classmates gave her sympathetic looks. Aaron murmured, "It's all right, Marissa. Luigi was planning to make a breakthrough before your unfortunate remark. It's not like you gave him the idea." But Marissa was inconsolable. Luigi had just further widened the gap between his and Ariana's spiritual rankings. Her teammates and fans were worried. Mr. Yates felt his spirits sag. Luigi had just made a breakthrough right there in the arena and had become a level 2 spiritual king. The deputy chief of Year 4 thought miserably, "I shouldn't have said anything to my ex-wife about Ariana's fighting prowess. She's going to lose this battle against Luigi, and my ex will have the last laugh." Ariana's teammates were alarmed. They clustered around Axel, whom they were accustomed to consulting because he had been their captain for so long. Andy hissed, "How's she supposed to win now?" Axel pondered the question for a moment. Then he replied, "If she made a breakthrough too, she'd be able to beat Luigi." His teammates scowled. "Oh, Axel," Andy said in exasperation. "She's a newly minted junior level 1 spiritual king. Do you expect her to vault to a level 2 in a single cultivation session?" Turin inserted himself into the conversation. Your faith in Ariana's abilities has turned out to be well-warranted a surprising number of times, he told Axel. But I think you're wrong now. There's no reason for us to expect her to make a big breakthrough like that. Axel pondered for another moment. Then he said, If Ariana runs into trouble, His Royal Highness will find a way to help her. Andy exclaimed, Oh, Axel, why would you say something like that? Turin said, That's a good question. Why would you say something like that, Axel? On one memorable day that Axel had spent with Ariana in the secret essence mine, she had confirmed his suspicions that she was the Crown Prince's fiancée. But she had asked Axel to keep that knowledge to himself so she could succeed at school because of her hard work instead of Warwick's patronage. Axel intended to keep his promise to her, so he couldn't tell his teammates a thing. Instead, he simply said, The day will come when we will consider ourselves lucky to have known Ariana. Once again, his teammates scowled. It wasn't like Axel to make mysterious pronouncements. Turin gave voice to their fears. He said, I can't think about the future right now. I'm worried about what's going to happen in the next hour. Judging from the energy Luigi's emanating, he's going to vanquish Ariana and then pulverize the rest of us. Axel opened his mouth to reply, but fell silent when he heard Luigi's voice. The military academy's team captain had completed his cultivation and was ready to start taunting Ariana again. He opened his eyes and stared haughtily at her. Then he exclaimed, Ariana Grace, if you fall to your knees and beg for my forgiveness, I will spare your life. She replied, I will never beg you for anything. He sneered, Your death will break your mother's heart. Once again, Ariana forced her facial expression to remain neutral. Once again, the Sphinx Academy students hissed and booed. Once again, a classmate of hers shouted, Leave Ariana's loved ones out of this! Slowly and deliberately, Ariana sheathed her sword. She sank to the floor, crossed her legs, and assumed a meditative pose. The onlookers were too surprised to gasp. General Novachrono bellowed, What the hell is she doing? Warwick's black eyes glittered affectionately. Isn't it obvious? He said. Princess Ariana is making a breakthrough. Many of the audience members were puzzled by Warwick's use of her royal title. They lived in isolation at their respective schools, so they didn't know King Marcus had made her a princess by royal edict. Warwick's steward, Toby, was pleased to hear the note of pride in his boss's voice. Toby would have been even more pleased if the Crown Prince had just come right out and said, I'm proud of my fiancée. She's so talented that she can make breakthroughs whenever she needs to. General Novachrono suppressed a derisive snort. He knew that laughing at the future ruler of his mighty nation could get him killed. But in the privacy of his mind, he mockingly dismissed the Crown Prince's assertion. His Royal Highness is imagining things, the general thought scornfully. General Novachrono tried to draw the Crown Prince's attention back to the military academy's team. Our captain, Luigi Loredo, is a fine, upstanding young man, he said. I'm so pleased he's become a level 2 spiritual king. Warwick said contemptuously, Your team captain is a sniveling snob with an inflated sense of self-worth. The general flushed from his neck to his receding hairline.
He was accustomed to being spoken to deferentially, but he knew that quarreling with the future ruler of his mighty nation could get him killed, so he held his tongue. The general had thought Warwick's assertion that Ariana was making a breakthrough was absurd. But everyone else in the arena soon realized the Crown Prince was right. Luigi saw that Ariana had shut off all her senses and immediately switched to cultivation mode the moment she sat down on the stage. Damn, he thought enviously. I have to clear my mind first and make all sorts of other moves before I can cultivate. So does everybody else I know. Luigi's classmates saw dense spiritual essence wrap around Ariana. Oh no, they thought in dismay. She's making a breakthrough. They groaned audibly. Ariana's classmates saw the cloud of spiritual essence too. Oh, wow! They thought in delight. She's making a breakthrough. They cheered loudly. Ariana's arch-rival Madeline was appalled. I worked hard to become a level 1 spiritual king, she thought furiously. And now that bitch is a level 2 spiritual king. Madeline whispered a secret chant nobody else could hear amid all the groaning and cheering. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. Madeline huffed. Her whispered chant triggered a flashback. She recalled a moment so vividly that she felt like she was reliving it. In her flashback, Madeline was a child again. She was sitting in the beautiful library her parents had built just for her in their home. She was a genius. The library was her special room where she met with private tutors and studied. The wonderful books, games, and art materials in the library would have made most children smile. But Madeline spent a lot of time frowning. 10 times a day, her tutors told her, Ariana Grace is younger than you, but she mastered this material ages ago. Why can't you get it right? 10 times a day, her mother told her, Ariana Grace is younger than you, but her spiritual ranking is higher than yours. 10 times a day, her grandfather glanced at her and sighed with disappointment. 10 times a day, Madeline whispered as she sat in her beautiful library. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. On the day of Madeline's flashback, her mother ushered a messenger from the Celestial Palace into the beautiful library. The messenger bowed respectfully to the two of them and handed Madeline a letter. Then the messenger slipped silently out of the library. The letter explained that though she and Ariana both had true phoenix blood, the master of the Celestial Palace only wanted one of them as a disciple. And Ariana was the master's choice. Oh, Madeline, her mother said as tears slid down her cheeks. Then she slipped silently out of the library too. Madeline didn't weep. She was a cold-hearted child. She was sick of hearing Ariana was superior to her. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her, Madeline whispered. She sat at her desk and thought. Then she thought some more. And finally, she came up with a plan to steal Ariana's true phoenix blood, so nobody would ever tell her that Ariana was superior to her. Madeline's flashback ended. She stared at the students in the arena who were still groaning and cheering. For the first time in a decade, Ariana had become superior to her once again. Madeline didn't weep. She was a cold-hearted young woman. You bitch, Madeline thought as she stared at Ariana. When Luigi kills you, you'll get what you deserve.